Hello, everyone, and welcome to Information Seeking Behavior and Confirmation Bias. I'm your presenter today, Kathleen Moody, for ISCI 706 Information Organization and Access. Today, we will be exploring what information seeking behavior is, as well as confirmation bias and how it can affect credible information, while also exploring the issue of confirmation bias in information seeking behavior. First, information seeking is the intentional or purposive acquisition of information. Information behavior focuses on people's information needs, on how they seek, manage, give, and use information, both purposefully and passively, in the varied roles that comprise their everyday lives. Confirmation bias, or another term for it is my side bias, is people's tendency to search for information that supports their beliefs and ignore or distort data contradicting them, and has frequently been discussed in the media, sciences, and philosophy. So let's talk about confirmation bias and why it matters. While researching, I found some key points that can happen. It can reduce the ability to make informed decisions. It can lead to overconfidence and misinformation, can favor evidence for one's own belief, and it can diminish one's way to correct views. How do these correlate? Confirmation bias affecting information seeking behaviors. There are three things I found. One being selective exposure, finding or avoiding sources depending on beliefs. A real world example of this would be someone finding or reading news from outlets that support only their views. Another one is skewed interpretation, like neutral or unclear data. Biased interpretation sometimes, even when exposed to neutral or opposing information, a person might downplay or twist that information. And then lastly, biased sources. Those are unfairly favors one side. So something you might see along with this is filters and or algorithms that result in this feedback loop of an echo chamber type of scenario. So confirmation bias again has evolved and is a problematic aspect of human reasoning that many believe deserves attention above all others. This is important in the field of library and information sciences because when something can be written powerfully, and false information might lead to misunderstandings that occur for people of all ages and experiences. Many, like Nickerson, view this as problematic because research relies on challenging existing ideas and critical thinking. This can block progress if inaccurate theories are being reinforced. While researching, a personal scenario came to mind about confirmation bias. It can affect anyone, including people learning to avoid it or aware of its existence. My scenario involving information seeking and sometimes falling into the trap of confirmation bias is about my two young children. I have one with a condition in infancy called laryngomalacia, which caused her to struggle to breathe early in life. One of my friends, very sadly, had a child pass away from this illness. This caused me to be hyper concerned with any sickness that affected their breathing in any way, even though their laryngomalacia is long gone. When you have a sick child, you can have a tendency to Google symptoms when nervous something is wrong, which can sometimes lead to looking at the worst case instead of the actual issue. So, going back to previous slides, when thinking from the concept of skewed information, I am often overly worried about my children being sick and might interpret a symptom as worse than it is or presenting itself instead of not being actually there. For example, if they're coughing, I might click yes on them having trouble breathing, confirming the issue is worse than it is. This cycle on confirmation bias is often not resolved for me until I get expert help seeking information. In this case, doctors with vast experience researching and diagnosing childhood illnesses and symptoms. So, related to our field, ways a librarian can combat confirmation bias. There are several. Librarians can offer workshops, provide one on one help, refine search tools by using keywords and Boolean operators, and encourage critical thinking skills for their patrons. This instruction will help users be more self sufficient and gain value from searching for information. So, in conclusion, about information seeking behavior and confirmation bias, in many instances, information seeking behaviors need to be taught for accurate information to be gained, especially in today's climate of information just being a click away. It is important to know where to find information, develop critical thinking skills, avoiding misinformation and bias while using legal and ethical standards for information use. For patrons, access to credible sources is important, as well as recognizing for some people their research strategies. If confirmation bias is present, it can, although be hard to entirely avoid, a conscious effort should be made. So, asking neutral questions might help in this effort, as well as pulling credible resources for those patrons. Thank you again for joining this informational talk about information seeking behavior and confirmation bias.